it's Alex and welcome back to my channel. Over here we have day 23, the prompt word was ancient, and I did realize that I forgot to do some white line art in her hair to kind of re-identify the line art because I used the darkest ink wash I have. But anyway, that piece aside, you can check out the process for that in the top right corner. And today's prompt word is dizzy, and we have my least favorite eco line here. This is 507, aka Ultramarine Violet. This change in colors here is actually because I had to lay down white ink to cover up a splotch. So this isn't the actual fault of the watercolor. I still just don't like this one very much, and ironically, this is the only one I have a duplicate bottle of. Because I bought one for myself thinking it would be a nice purple, and then a set I got for Christmas one year also included this one. So we'll figure out something to do with it in the future. So my idea for today is definitely a little bit more cartoony than my style has been in a while. We'll see whether or not I actually do this. I might toy around with the idea of doing something else. And because I didn't just explain what this thumbnail actually is, it's a guy making a noxious potion and getting dizzy from it. And we've finally done it. We have run out my roll of blue tape. I have had this thing for a few months, but the fact that I finished it entirely in the month of October is a little sad, I will admit. You know, and the more that I think about it, I don't really like the setup we made. We'll put a piece of paper over top of the other thumbnail over here. I'll bring you guys in nice and close. We're for sure gonna do a landscape, or a profile piece today. I don't know if I'm the only one who does this, but small life hack. Kneaded erasers kind of work exactly the same as wall tack for posters. That's what I've been using to keep up everything like in line during certain shots. So let's draw a few boxes here. So thinking about dizzy, I have a definition pulled up. We've got having or involving a sensation of spinning around and losing one's balance, or make someone feel unsteady, confused, or amazed. So if we have make someone unsteady, confused, or amazed, this composition where it's kind of like a person is up on an enchanted tightrope, this feels very close to what I did on day 14, so I think we're going to nix that. So one thing I just realized that we haven't done is we haven't included my favorite type of magic user in this entire prompt challenge. I guess because I usually don't include bards with being witches. However, I think we should take that step. We did more of a mage yesterday than a true witch. I'm just wondering how exactly I want to do this. And I'm thinking of making a flute player. Just because that's kind of like the most interesting pose for an instrument I can think of, other than, you know, like a bagpipe or something. Ooh, bagpipe might be fun. Nope. We're gonna stick with flute. So kind of extending this box here, maybe we'll do kind of like a Pied Piper sort of situation. And then all of the rats will be, yeah, I like that. I'll have to come up with a better, so maybe instead of having the bard witch standing up, I still want to have this pose where they're kind of like raising the flute up a little bit, so you can kind of assume they're swaying, because I don't want them to have the flute at perfect posture, because that just feels a little static. And if you're wondering, no, I did not play flute. I played clarinet for 8 years. However, my sister Tori and Jess both played flute through high school, so I feel like someone else I know did. Yes, we have another round table up in the front of the piece. We'll do a whole swarm of rats on the table, and maybe like a distressed barmaiden in the back here. I like that. Oh god, that just got so complicated. No! Oh, I wanted to do a simpler piece. But I really like that idea now. So back to the 2H pencil. So let's kind of sketch in the background first. God, there's got to be an easier way to sketch in a table like this. I want it to be rather, I don't want it to be that wide. Well, it would save me from having to draw too much of the bard, so maybe. I don't want to be looking at it from too high up. And I want the bottom line of the table to be like here. So that's about where I want this table to be. And maybe we'll do a wood table. So you have all of the slats around it, and we'll figure out how much of the table itself we're gonna be able to see under the gaggle of rats. Is there a name for a swarm of rats? Oh, all right. So according to Wikipedia, I didn't know that infant rats were known as either kittens or pups. Oh, that's so cute. But a group of rats is referred to as a mischief. So the mischief will be taking up most of the table, then the bard will be pretty large over here, and then confused barmaiden back here. And maybe we'll have her be a little bit closer to both fill up some more space and then be able to have more definition on her. Now, since yesterday I went for a really modern witch sort of approach, I'm going high fantasy with this one. So maybe we'll do an elf bard. I'll do you one better on the elf, on the race of this bard. They're gonna be a drow, not an elf. Because drow don't get enough love. Drow are also called dark elves for anybody who's not big on high fantasy, but I usually make my drow's ears a little bit more rounded than my elf's ears. I think we're going to do more like a simple approximation of a flute, because if you've seen a flute, that's a lot of valves. We'll figure out what he's gonna be doing with his hair. I haven't drawn a bald character in a while, but I don't think I want this guy to be bald. He also has to have his hat. Nope. Thumb goes up towards the face at the front. That's about the right size of hand. I think he's just gonna have his hair mostly pulled back, maybe with some little wispies along the side here. Alright, barmaiden time. Or maybe we'll work on the rats. I'm gonna have a whole bunch of big chunkin' rats. Maybe a potato there, potato, another potato here. Maybe we'll have like a mega rat back here. The dire rat. The way I draw rats is pretty much you draw a circle or a pear shape, or kind of like a sweet potato. Rats are like the perfect sweet potato shape, and then you just add on the extras. Maybe he's accidentally called in a few mice as well. And I want to have one good little bean sitting up on top of the biggin. So, with the rats complete, let's draw the barmaid. And she's gonna have her hands over her mouth, one hand over the other, instead of doing like both side by side. Because I feel like with the way I draw hands, that wouldn't turn out too well. Also, I just realized that the thumb needs to kind of be like underneath the flute for that to make sense, instead of him like grasping around it. So if her shoulders are there, those are some long forearms. Long and skinny. So I'm thinking of doing kind of like an off-the-shoulder, pretty roughly sleeved shirt for the barmaiden. Nice underbust corset. In Miyazaki style, we're gonna have her hair kind of like float upwards when she's experiencing intense emotions. Having her eyebrows raised doesn't make it look like she's actually experiencing shock. Maybe we'll do creased brows instead. I kind of want her to have like some sort of apron. Maybe it's going to be tied up on the side, and then an A-line dress that continues to go down, and that would continue on through the wrap. Then we'll put the slightest hint of the bar back here. And I think we'll just leave all of this space up here. Well, I don't want to leave it unoccupied. I think we're going to remove these two drinks from on top of the bar momentarily, because we're going to put in a whole line of kegs. Now we efficiently know that we are in a bar, so why don't we start in on the rats? So, voiceover Alex here. I honestly did record audio while going through this whole process, but I'm kind of in a time crunch today, and I need to be able to film 3 videos today instead of 2 that I usually do on my day off. It's just gonna be a lot easier on me if I do some post-audio recording. Besides, I didn't really do a lot of interesting commentary for this one. I kind of forgot to. Today has already been a day and I haven't really even done anything yet. But hey, we're nearing the end of Inktober. That's a sad thing to say, sure, but I think I'm kind of ready to take a break for at least a day. It's gonna be nice. So as I worked on this piece, I kind of started developing a story that the adventurer who I struggled the entire time I was recording this to come up for a name for him. I have a lot of drow characters, and I kind of wanted to give him a name that sounded a little bit like some of my other characters. So just to give a few examples of drow character names I have, I've got Andalin, Iverly, Marnie, Halradin, and there's a bunch of others. I actually have so many drow characters right now. So that's kind of like the vein of names I was kind of gonna fall into. But whenever I started thinking of names, the 2 that came up for me for him was Eomir and Eilonwy, which is this character. So, and I really didn't even think of a name for the barmaiden. So if you guys want to help me name them in the comment section below, I would be eternally grateful. Anyway, so this drow adventurer has just come off of, I don't know, some sort of dungeon crawl, some sort of job. And that's why there's kind of like all these splotches of ink that will be on his clothing later. That is also because I also got inside the lines with a little smudge, and that was the easiest way that I could reason that he has smudges on him. So he came into this tavern to finally get some rest and some food, and the barmaiden sees a rat scurry across the floorboards, and he's the only patron in the bar. So she asks him to help, so he decides to use some sort of spell that enchants animals to listen to him, and he starts playing this song, and more rats start crawling out of the woodwork, and the barmaiden is shaken, and the rats are confused at best. They're entranced by this song, and he'll lead them outside eventually, just as soon as he has all of the rats. When I was inking in the background bar, I decided that it looked a little bit too bare without some more rats. And also I thought that if there weren't rats also in the background, it might look like he was summoning the rats from nothing instead of summoning them just from elsewhere in the bar. when it came to the background, I originally wasn't intending on making an actual background for this piece, but something in my brain isn't letting me just do washes of color in the background anymore. I think since the rest of Inktober I've been doing full backgrounds, I want to finish out strong and make sure that all the pieces feel cohesive with one another. So I decided to put a whole bunch of casks of ale behind the bar. I don't know how you'd exactly pour out the liquor from inside of them, but that was the easiest background I could think of. I also considered doing like rows of bottles, but then I would have had to have drawn so many bottles, and I really didn't want to have to deal with that. I also went along with a pretty much dead 01 Sakura pen and just did light wood texture along the floor. I didn't want to make it too defined, and I also did the same thing for the ruching in the bodice of the barmaid, because I just wanted very light textures. When I started officially coloring this piece, I didn't want to go in with a black in between the kegs in the background, just because I didn't want it to be too dark, so I decided to go in with the 06 wash, and I had to bring out that flat brush that I used yesterday on the plaid to be able to get into these small nooks and crannies. And here's where I add in some more rats in the background, and also dipped my hand inside wet ink and smudged it along the bar. So I think this is the most rats I've ever drawn. I'm pretty sure before today I'd only ever drawn 2, but I'm gonna draw more. I think that there's a future piece I have in mind that you guys might see around Christmas. Yes, I am already planning for Christmas. I think I might have to hide a few rats in that piece too. And since today's color is a watercolor, I had to go around and do all of the acrylic ink first before I could do any of the areas with watercolor. I tried putting in some extra shadowing on the base of the hand to show that the hand is kind of like tilted towards the viewer while he's playing the flute. Though that's not exactly right now that I'm trying to gesture in flute position right now as I'm recording this. I guess I shouldn't have put that much shadow on his hand, but that's alright. And for the Curious, which is the leather armor that he has on, I wanted to make sure that that was pretty dark, and then all of the straps that I put on it, while I was inking it, I didn't intend for them to be so oddly narrowed going up towards the top, so I fixed that later with a little bit of ink wash. So since we have a moment while I'm filling in the floor and the background, how's Inktober going for you guys? If you guys happen to be going through Inktober yourselves, have you made it every day? Have you had to skip a few? Are you just behind a little bit? I kind of wish I would have let myself fall behind a little bit because it's been a little stressful to keep making sure that every day I have the video up. Getting the piece done every day hasn't really been an issue, but the video process has been a trip and a half. YouTube has currently not been liking me uploading my pieces, so usually it'll give me a good dozen error codes before I'm able to actually upload it. Very frustrating. While I was working on the table, I didn't want to do too much shadowing around the rats because I was worried I would get inside the lines too many times. So there's very little shading on the rats. If I would have had masking fluid, then I probably would have done more shading underneath the rats, but without it, I don't want to risk it. For the barmaiden skirt, I had originally considered doing dark purple and light purple stripes, which is why I had little lines throughout. However, I decided I was going to do dark gray and light purple lines and then have that apron top skirt thing she's wearing be the darker purple. I wanted to make sure that most of the background and the actual characters themselves were in gray tones. I feel like I got a little bit out of hand through the course of this Inktober of whether or not I was just going to do a pop of the color of the day or just kind of like do almost everything in the color of the day. I tried going for more of a pop of color today, so mostly the rats and aspects of both of the characters' clothings will be in this purpley color, and then everything else will be in gray. Now, I wanted to make sure that the rats' bodies are the full tone of purple with white tails, and the mice have white bodies and the full purple tone ears and tail. As soon as I got done with most of the rats, I decided, however, I didn't like having them all be that dark tone. They kind of started to blend in a little bit. And I found out that if I took a little bit of watercolor and let it sit there for a second and then dabbed up with a paper towel, I could get this kind of cool, more lavendery tone. The thing that trips me out the most about this watercolor is that it lays down on the paper very blue, but then it tends to dry a little closer to purple, and then wherever I pulled up the watercolor from the paper, it had stained the paper more of a lilac purple than a bluebell purple. That is exactly why this watercolor is my least favorite in this entire set. It is never a consistent color, and I can't understand why. Before, I used to think it was because I always mixed it with my red because I honestly hate the color that this is. I usually mix it with a different color to get different tones. Like, I much prefer a more red purple, so I usually mix it with a red. And for the hat and the pants of the bard and the top skirt of the barmaiden, I actually mixed it with a black, and it still came out a little bit more red toned of a purple. I don't exactly know what undertone I would say it has. But I like the color of the pants better than I like the actual color of the rats, if that sentence still makes sense. I started somewhere and I fell way off track. Even though I really don't like this watercolor very much, I think this piece turned out pretty well. I think I mostly owe that to the fact that I knew that I wanted to limit my use of this color, and sometimes knowing exactly the right amount of usage is the best thing that you can do for a piece. And now that we've done eye shines and fixed the eyebrows, I actually colored over those too dark, and go back in, fix some of the tails, we are done.
Alright
Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed watching me work on this piece, and I think it turned out pretty well despite this being my least favorite watercolor in this entire set. Tomorrow's prompt word is tasty, and we'll be using another purple Ecoline tomorrow, so hopefully we can do that color as much justice as somehow we managed to do for this one. It's weird. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that this color managed to work out for me today. But anyway, if you feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and check me out on my other social media handles. Thanks, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.